Listen, anytime, any place, anywhere, I'll fight you in your back garden. Like a dumb Klitschko, I'll beat you, you bum. You're a bum.
I want to unify. Is he up for the challenge? Like I said, I declare war. You know, this is not a battle, this is war because I was born.
Why am I sitting in your spare room? While you are sitting in your mum's spare rooms, just tickling your bollocks.
Come and see me, baby. No more hiding, no more ducking, no more dodging, no more excuses. Let's make the fight happen. Let's see who's the best. I know I'm the best. Are you up for the test?
I'm through. Hey, put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Negative. I'm good. I beat Polly. I left with his belt and his girl.
Fucking was too fast. But it wasn't so much about, it was just that he was so fucking fast. Fast.
Amazingly fast.
Fucking amazingly fast. I was like, I thought Freddie was in there fucking hitting me too. So.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family, another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, podcast from iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Going to be talking all things boxing today, reviewing all of the weekend's fights, Oscar Valdez, Adam Lopez, the Celia Brackus card with Besputin versus Butaev, and Joe Cordina on the card. You guys know me, I'm a huge Joe Cordina fan, so expect like a 30-minute breakdown of that fight alone. Plus, John Casimero defeating Tete, Zolani Tete in devastating upset fashion, and shout out to, Casimero. Always love a good upset fight, plus ended in third round, so a quick finish too. Just a lot to get to today. The Damas Teixeira fight being really a fantastic fight as well. Plus, we have the article coming from FightHype.com talking about DAZN trying to invest both into Ring Magazine and Ring TV, and paying for accommodations for journalists and media members, and what the ramifications of that are, whether it's an industry-wide issue, my thoughts on that, because, obviously I'm more experienced than anyone probably on this sort of either listening or on this panel that's been at events, been credentialed. I know the experiences of that. I have seen members get sort of paid off or get compensated for travel and lodging. I know the ins and outs of this industry better than a lot of people, and I think I'm finally attuned to talk about this subject, and I can't wait to rant about it. Plus, we have Eddie Hearns' comments about that, saying that promoters should do it more often. Just a lot of fun to get there. Plus, some fight announcements for the illegal card that's happening right now in Arizona, Jacobs Chavez. Some undercard fight announcements for that card that is still breaking the law, both federal law and state law. And another fight announcement for a WBO mandatory slot. A lot to get to today's show, but I'm joined, as usual, on these shows by the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, what's up, man?
This was a really good week of boxing. This was kind of like the quiet week until we got to the next 2 weeks. And there was the upset in the Tete fight. There was the Adames Teixeira war. And then the Valdez fight turned out to be a really good scrap, too. So there was some really good fights this weekend. And I wanted to get into the guy that fought on the undercard of Tete, LaRon Richards. I thought he looked highly impressive, and I don't even know if you got to watch that fight, but he looked really good. That guy's going to be a tough out for anyone at 168. But I just thought, in a week that was supposed to be quiet until the lead up of the two big weekends, it's a really good weekend of boxing.
For a weekend that was supposed to be a pretty dead weekend, it did turn out some entertaining fights. I will say that. It wasn't a great weekend of boxing. If you look on paper, this was sort of a ho-hum affair, and we had some decent fights, and fights that definitely over-delivered. That's a huge aspect. We had fights that, like, for example, the Valdez-Lopez fight. That fight shouldn't have been as entertaining and as back and forth as it was, and it turned out to be a really good fight. But digressing, let's get to the whole Valdez-Lopez fight, because that's the one I did not report on yesterday. I did do a post-fight show for the midday cards, the Tete Casimero card, and the Besputin Butaev card. I did do a post-fight show for those two, but I didn't do any content for Valdez-Lopez. So let's get into that first. I mean, there's so many different ways to sort of tackle this subject and tackle this fight. First off, I do still feel truly vindicated in all my rants and all my anger directed at Oscar Valdez. Like, holy shit, is that a guy that has really benefited from good matchmaking on his side, in a sense, from safe matchmaking, and largely has created a career out of really only one decent win, and that was the Scott Quigg fight. You know, he collected title, really, that was a vacant belt, I want to say, from my recollection, from my memory, and again, he has really not developed as a fighter. Even with the Eddie Reneso move to Eddie Reneso's camp and under his tutelage, I don't see any real improvement from Oscar Valdez. There's flashes of him trying to be Canelo Alvarez, but we still see the same Oscar Valdez, and the same Oscar Valdez isn't that great. It's a guy that is clearly getting, I think, beat up in this career that he's had, and it shows. And a guy like Adam Lopez, be able to put hands on him, dropping him with a knockdown, and really outboxing him through large portions of the fight. This is not normal. This shouldn't be happening for a guy of Oscar Valdez's rating and reputation, so to speak. But then again, I've been here on this show for years and other shows for years ranting that Oscar Valdez is somebody that hasn't improved since this first time I saw him on the undercard. I think it was Timothy Bradley, Jesse Vargas. Okay, the guy has not improved ever since then, and that is a major issue. And he's been sold as a product that he just simply is not by Top Rank and ESPN. And shout out to Adam Lopez. I mean, first off, that stoppage was atrocious. That was just a bad stoppage, full stop. Like, there's no way need to cut about it. Like, oh, they saved him from damage in the year of, significant deaths in the sport. Like, maybe it was safer to, err on the side of caution. No. Like, this was a bad stoppage. This was clearly an early stoppage to the max degree in a way. And I only feel just like sadness for Adam Lopez. Like, he really had a chance to win this fight. And he could have even hurt Valdez later on in the fight, really finished him. I'll be honest, I don't understand how we look at this fight as a community and don't get upset at the sport. Because this is one of those fights you look at and say, I'm not saying there's corruption, but for the casual fans that tune in every once in a while, the casual hardcores, more to speak, they look at this and say, fixed. They look at this and say, the ref stopped it early because of the hometown cooking. Like, they say that, and I see why they say that. But shout out to Adam Lopez. Great performance by him, honestly. He boxed well. The jab was perfect. Like, he really overperformed in a way that I don't think any of us expected. Cannot wait to see his next fight. Gary, your thoughts on the performance of Oscar Valdez and Adam Lopez?
First, I want to give all credit to Adam Lopez. He took that fight on literally zero notice. Like, he weighed in for a fight at a lower weight class against a nondescript opponent, and then moments later is taking the biggest fight of his life, and he gave a heck of a performance. It wasn't just a knockdown. He was outboxing him. The first round he kind of lost, and then after that, I thought he won most of the rounds moving forward. I thought it was a really good performance. I'm looking forward to see what he can do in the future, especially at his natural weight class, because you could see even a guy like Valdez, who just moved up from 26, was noticeably bigger in the ring. Right, they're about the same height, and Valdez was built a lot bigger and stronger.
Yes.
So I'm like, I know he hasn't. Lopez had already had a loss, and he wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. He looked pretty good. He moved really well. He used his jab really well to the head and the body. Like, he did a lot of things really well in that fight. And we usually disagree on stoppages. Like on the Rigondeaux Seja fight, I was okay with the stoppage.
I hated that stoppage.
Yeah, I was okay with that. It's a little quick, but I just thought he was going to get punished, so might as well step in. This stoppage was ridiculous, and I'm usually for a quicker stop than that. That was absurd. Like, he wasn't. First of all, there's only a couple seconds up in the round. If you don't want to use that, the ref's got to stop it whenever he needs to stop it, fine. But it didn't need to be stopped. Like, he wasn't taking a bunch of unanswered shots. I mean, he was in a little bit of trouble, but he was responsive. His hands was up. He was fine. Like, he was
slipping shots. He was countering back too. Like, he was literally throwing back at Valdez throughout that sequence after he was knocked down. And like, we're gonna get into the Tete Casimero fight. That fight should have been stopped. The second The second he just wouldn't walk to the ref and he was like swaying into the ropes, you can instantly go, he's not ready to fight. Adam Lopez never looked like that. Not once.
Never. I thought that was, and it was a shame because I think that fight was just starting to unfold. Was Valdez, because I thought Valdez was being outboxed, right? And Valdez was down on the scorecards. Was that the point that it turned, or could Lopez weather the storm and get back in control of that fight? And we never got to find that out.
And I know that I saw some media members out there saying, like, look, he wasn't winning the scorecards anyways. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean he should have been stopped. Like, that doesn't mean anything. For most of us out there watching, we thought Lopez was up.
Lopez was up on the scorecards, is what they said.
No, he wasn't.
Christina Poncher said that he was up.
They must have had that wrong then, because I saw the scorecards. I think he was down in 2 of them and either up in 1 or it was a draw on the other one.
How do you have him? I mean, that does smell like home cooking to me. Like, how is he?
Exactly. I'm telling you, this is the fight where, like, again, I'm not one to like really shout out corruption, because I think that's just a phrase we throw out there with really not a lot of meaning or backing and not a lot of actual context to it. But I can see why people are upset about this fight in every single way. The judges were, against Lopez.
Yeah.
The ref was like, it just seemed like the entire house was stacked against Adam Lopez here, because he was the B side and Valdez is the top ranked fighter through and through. And it's just sad, man. Like, this is one of those like occurrences where like I get frustrated with the sport, because if there was if there's a proper apparatus and structure to the sport, those judges and refs get reviewed instantaneously.
It's one of those things, right? Like, I would have picked Valdez to beat Herring a week ago. Now I don't. He can't deal with a boxer. So I would have said, okay, Valdez gets through Herring's lack of power and breaks him down and stops him late. Maybe behind on scorecards, but he stops him late. Herring, like, that fight did nothing to make me want to see Valdez again at 130, right? Like, nothing. So, like,
Burchelt destroys Valdez.
Rips his head off, kills him, like, he destroys him. That fight's not even competitive.
Jamel Herring
schools him, takes him to school. And I've always thought Herring was a good amateur, but he doesn't really sit down his punches. Like, there's not much to him as a pro. I think he's really, really
progressed. Yes, he's progressed.
And like, I don't know how high he's already a legitimate champion.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think he could beat Valdez. I mean, but like, Valdez is not the guy. Like, I know they really wanted him to be. He's got a background. He was an Olympian, wasn't he?
I want to say he was an Olympian. I know he had a good amateur career. I don't know if he was an Olympian for sure, but I do know he had a great amateur career.
Then he's got the natural Mexican kind of style, come forward style.
It has been built up in the LA market. Speaking for someone that lives in LA, very well. He's one of the few guys that I would say there was a period of time where Top Rank and PBC could have co-promoted a Leo Santa Cruz Oscar Valdez fight at Staples Center and sell out. That's way past his expiration date now.
The only problem with Valdez is he's not very good. Like, everything else about him is great. And
he is an exciting fighter. Like, he is probably a top 20-ish guy overall, let's be honest. He's like he's like Jaime Munguia. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy that is super entertaining, a guy that will throw an exchange on the inside, that's willing to have those exciting fights, but really isn't the boxer that's really going to beat those top 5 guys, and hasn't been really pushed that way either, has been sheltered, and is probably just a top 20-ish, top 15 guy. And that's fine, but they've been promoted and marketed as something far more. And that's the issue.
As a pound for pound, elite, high level, and he's not even close to that, right? And I was kind of on board with him. And then you're like, well, look who he's beaten. And he almost lost to, what's the Filipinos guy's name? Genesis, or I'm going to say it wrong.
Oh, Cervania or Savania, yeah.
Savania. That was a scrap. And Savania is like that kind of top 20 kind of, good guy, but you need to get past him if you're an elite fighter. And they went to war and had a, like an epic scrap. But that's the level that Valdez is on, where it's like, okay, that 10 to 20 level. He's not a top 10 guy. He's not. And I know how badly Top Rank wants to sell him as one, but he's not that good.
No, he's not. And
who did he beat? I was like, well, there's Quigg, and there's
oh gosh, let's look at his resume really fast. Hold on.
There's Quigg.
Didn't he beat like Gornatovich or one of those guys? Yeah, I was right. Ivana Granatovich. Yes. God, I'm so good at this.
He beat my
Dude,
paisan.
Granatovich was one of those guys that lost to like a bunch of people and was used as like, oh, he beat Granatovich, but Granatovich was never that good. He beat Mariaga and that, whatever.
Yeah, but those guys are food. Like, those are the guys that, like, I put you in the ring with because he's a rugged guy, but you better beat him and you better look good.
Hey, he beat Jose Ramirez.
Different Jose Ramirez.
Dude, Oscar Valdez, again, I just feel so vindicated. Even though he won the fight, and I thought he did, he fought back well against Adam Lopez, but he shouldn't have been in this type of fight with Adam Lopez. Let's just be honest about it. I just feel absolutely vindicated in all my rants about this guy. I'll be honest. And I hate being like harsh on a fighter, but I want to be harsh on Oscar Valdez because it's predominantly being harsh on Top Rank. Top Rank has mispromoted Oscar Valdez his entire career. And it's just apparent, let's be honest. But digressing, any other thoughts on Valdez Lopez here, Gary?
No, other than I think Valdez is going to get destroyed by whoever he fights next.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. Carl Frampton defeated Tyler McCreary via unanimous decision, and it turned out that he broke both his hands actually after the fight. Didn't really look like that honestly during the fight. He dominated from round to round, from bell to bell. Like, he really outboxed McNary, showed that he was levels above. The experience was a factor. I think he dropped him with a body shot, I want to say, right?
He dropped twice, didn't he, with body shots?
I want to say it was at least once, I remember. And he just looked clearly levels above this guy that really shouldn't have been in a fight with Carl Frampton. It was clearly a stay busy fight for the Northern Irish native, and truly just a setup fight for Jamel Herring. Jamel Herring was in the crowd. Christina Poncher routinely went to him for his thoughts on Carl Frampton throughout the night. And also, again, with Valdez, because Bachelt was there. Like, clearly all the 130-pounders right now under Top Rank Stable were there under that roof, and they were trying to sort of see which fight was the big fight. They're putting out the feelers for the fans. You can clearly see that. And it looks like we're going to get Herring Frampton next whenever Frampton heals up in Belfast. Herring wants a $1 million paycheck for that. I think he's probably going to get that. Shouldn't be that hard. He made, $250 against Roach, and I think Frampton just made $200K against McCary. I mean, in today's age of inflated purses, these guys are going to make 7 figures for that fight. You put it in Belfast, where I think they could get a good site fee. Makes sense. And plus, just really a decent fight at 130 at this point in time. Gary, your thoughts on Frampton McCary and then Frampton Herring next? Thoughts on both of those?
All right. First, I wanted to see McCreary. I saw him before a while back. I want to say it was like 2017 on that. I don't remember if it was Bounce or whatever the other network was, where they had all the Ohio fighters. Yes. Warren fought on it. It was headlined by Easter.
Yes.
He fought a guy. What was Johnny Perez or something like that?
Jonathan Perez. Yes, Johnny Perez.
And he looked good. And Perez is one of those guys where he's a tough guy, and if you beat the hell out of him, then you're pretty good. And then he had like unexpected draw to another guy with like a losing record or something, like a really bad record. He fought him to a draw.
Roberto Castaneda.
I'll take your word for it. I don't even know who that is.
He doesn't have a losing record, but he has a 23-11 record at the time.
Okay. He's got a guy with 11 losses, right? A journeyman.
A little bit harsh, but sure.
23-11. What do you want me to call you?
I mean, from like the traditional journeyman definition, like you usually have around a 500 record.
Okay.
Right. You truly do have either a losing record or a 500 record as a journeyman, but that's beside the point.
And that guy fought I think there's skills in McCreary. Like I do. He doesn't seem to put it all together. I don't know. Maybe get him with another trainer. Who trains him?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's skills that and he had never fought anyone near that level. He's never been in the ring with anyone even remotely good. So this was a big step up for him, and he obviously wasn't ready. But I don't know if that means he'll never be ready. I think he needs, maybe a new trainer, a new site, and then instead of going right to Carl Frampton, how about fight Kiko Martinez next? How about fight someone you can beat, but someone who's going to test you?
Yeah.
I think there's skills. Like I think he does a lot of things pretty well.
He didn't look bad. He just looked like he wasn't ready for this at all. And again, like he definitely didn't put it all together. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the idea of like there was no game plan there. It seemed there was no sense of like tactics or strategy at all. He just sort of went in there and sort of went with the flow of the action. And you can't do that with a guy that has the experience and the skill as Carl Frampton does. You just can't do that as an inexperienced prospect.
Although I wanted to add, the banter between Andre Ward and Tim Bradley late in that fight was excellent. When Bradley's like, well, he's letting his hands go because he's never gone 10 rounds before. He doesn't want to shoot all his energy. And Ward's like, if somebody hits you, I hit him back. Like, that's it. Like, you let your hands go. The banter between those two were great. I think those guys do a pretty good job. But as far as Frampton and
Herring,
I think that's a good fight. I know, Matt, you said that picking the winner is pretty obvious. I'm leaning towards one guy. I guess you're picking Herring, is that right?
Yeah, I feel like it's an obvious pick, right? I mean,
like, you don't think Frampton is a borderline Hall of Fame guy?
Look, I think Frampton, borderline Hall of Fame. I don't know about that. Maybe. I got to think about that more. I don't know about that one.
They say your gut reaction is probably the right one. So if your gut reaction says no, then
I'm leaning no for that one, to be honest. I mean, he's definitely a good fighter. Like, don't get me wrong. He's one of those fighters that I'm going to talk to my kid about the 2010s. Like, Carl Frampton's definitely a name I mention with the history of this era, right? You have to, especially the featherweight division. He's a part of that history. But momentum is such a key thing in combat sports. It really is. You have Frampton, who has really been performing at an adequate level lately, but not a level that is truly otherworldly for some time. And on top of that, he has routinely been injured, breaking hands both in fights and out of fights with the statue. Remember that thing falling on him? Like, he's a guy that, like, he has just aged poorly, I think, to be honest. Like, his body has, at least, the health of his body. He may be able to box well still, because he can. Like, the Donaire fight, for example, especially with Donaire, what he did to Inoue, I think that's a good barometer of how good Frampton still is, but he's a guy that is still getting hurt routinely and is aging in a division where you age fast. And Herring is a guy that, for some reason, has just had a career renaissance, has progressed with his skill level, his skill set, has put it together in a way that certain fighters need to put it together, and he has. And momentum is clearly on his side. Plus, if you're talking about a guy that has the reach, the overall height, and talent level to maybe box with Carl Frampton and negate what Frampton does, I think that absolutely Jeremiah Herring could outbox Carl Frampton. I think that's, at this point in time, it seems even a little bit easy, to be honest. And maybe that's harsh. Maybe I'm rating Frampton poorly when I shouldn't be, and maybe I'm rating Herring high when I shouldn't be. But that's how I see it. Momentum is clearly, the pendulum is shifting to Herring's side drastically in the last 18 months. So Herring seems to be the easy pick at this point in time.
I would lean towards Herring. Like, I would pick Herring to win, but I don't see why it's easy. You're right. I can't think of how Frampton beats him. But look, Frampton's got a bunch of good wins. He's beaten a bunch of high-level fighters. So why isn't he good enough where he can... Again, if you say, Gary, come up with a blueprint on how he beats him. I don't know how he beats him, right? But I'm also not a highly paid trainer. I also don't have the ring IQ of Carl Frampton. I don't know how he beats him.
I absolutely understand that. If to put myself in devil's advocate position, if I'm Frampton and how to beat him, there's ways to do it. He just has to box a very perfect game. He has to land shots consistently and efficiently. And Herring is a guy that is extremely good at making you miss, at making you be inefficient. He's one of those fighters that negates action. And Frampton needs action to be at a certain level and pace to get his going. And I could see Herring to be sort of the cold splash of water on Frampton's style, in a way. And it's not in the same degree, but in the second, excuse me, in the second Leo fight, He slowed it down, used his height, used his reach to really negate the forward movement of Frampton, to stick him in that no man's land with the jab and just pick him apart with shots and sniped him pretty much throughout the fight, right? I could see Herring looking at that second fight of Leo Santa Cruz and saying, how can I take aspects of that fight and fine-tune it to my style to beat Frampton and have success with it, and a lot of success with it. But it should be like a close to even money fight, don't get me wrong. It's not like Frampton's a complete bum. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying he's trash. No, I think Frampton's easily a really great fighter, but I just think momentum's on his side, and I think Herring has the tools to beat Frampton, to be honest. Could be wrong about that, though. It's the beauty of boxing.
Yeah, I just go back to Frampton when he was all the way down at 122, and he beat guys like I always want to call him Paul Molitor, the baseball player, the Steve Molitor, the Canadian. Sure. That was a good fighter. He beat Kiko Martinez when that meant something. He had a bunch of good wins, and he always figured out a way. And then he beat Santa Cruz at 126, right? And he beat guys like Avalos and Scott Quigg. He's always been able to win fights, right? I thought Santa Cruz was going to blow him out, and then he beat Santa Cruz. I think there's a lot of levels to Frampton. Again, I would pick Herring probably, but I want to see what Frampton brings to the table and the kind of fight that he brings to Herring, because he would have to be the aggressor in the fight, obviously, right?
Yeah, and almost like a similar way to this McCary fight. Like McCary was the taller, longer reach fighter. You saw Frampton dart in and out with combinations, work the body a lot. You have to do something similar to Herring, but Herring is just far and away a better fighter.
He doesn't have the skills or the craftiness of Herring. So, I mean...
And potential lunatic in the chat saying harder to beat Frampton in a highly technical fight. The pressure of Warrington was the blueprint to beat him. I disagree. Leo tried that in the first fight and failed miserably. Why? Because Frampton routinely was able to get on the inside and land his shots on the longer fighter of Leo Santa Cruz. Warrington was the small guy like Frampton. So Warrington was able to sort of just get on the range of Frampton easier than these other guys. The other guys have to adjust to this very small, stout fighter being those long, rangy guys. It's hard to adjust for that. Think about like AJ and Ruiz, right? It's the same sort of concept. Frampton was Ruiz in that comparison, right? Obviously. Leo in the second fight dialed back the action significantly. Like the second Leo and Frampton fight is not as exciting as the first one. Why? Because Leo minimized the action to use his reach more efficiently. That's kind of what Herring needs to do. And then again, Frampton with hand injuries at this age, that's a huge red flag for me personally, massive. So it's hard to pick a guy in a big fight like that when he's having hand injuries consistently at his age. That X factor is massive. Gary, any other thoughts on Frampton, Herring, Frampton, McCary, anything like that?
No.
All right, let's get to Carlos Adames versus Patrick Teixeira in perhaps one of those top 20 fights of the year, to be honest. This was a slugfest. And Gary, shout out to you getting it right. Broken clock is, right twice a day sort of thing right there, You had to get one right eventually, Gary. And Teixeira, really, going back and watching this fight, because when I watched him the first time, I'll be honest, I wasn't super paying attention to it at the time. I was doing other stuff in the house, but I was watching the background. And it looked like Adames was getting the better of Teixeira in the exchanges. He was shorting the more compact combinations, just getting the better looking shots off. While Teixeira was just sort of not sluggish in his movement, but his movements were very long, very wide. His shots were telegraphed. I just didn't like his movement at times. But obviously, I will say this. I haven't watched it a few more times since. Teixeira obviously won this fight actually with better defense, if that makes sense. Adames really rushed forward with his hands down consistently and 8 shots. And Teixeira, while not being a defensive wizard, at least had a high guard. So that allowed him to deflect and block shots from Adames far more consistently than Adames blocking shots from Teixeira. And that was a significant factor in this fight, watching it back. Teixeira was just able to land more shots more effectively, more consistently, because why? Adames' defense was just not there. He was walking forward with his hands down by his waist, trying to catch shots and roll his shots, but again, his hands just were not up by his face at all, so he wasn't able to just simply block those easy shots that Teixeira was throwing. And then you have the knockdown in the 7th round. Teixeira just really put it on Adames in a really fantastic way from a fighter that has been in the trenches in that top 20-ish range for a long time, and finally picked up a big win here. And I think the winner of this fight, obviously it was for an interim WBO belt, but I think the winner is going to get elevated to the full champion since Munguia is moving up. So Patrick Teixeira should be your full WBO champion in the next few weeks, I'm assuming. Gary, your thoughts on the performance of Patrick Teixeira and beating Carlos Adames?
First of all, I want to get into Adames first. It was a good performance by Teixeira, but it's what I thought. Like, you asked me who I thought was going to win. I said I'm going to lean towards Teixeira because I'm basically going to pick any guy I think is a pretty good boxer to beat Adames because Adames gets hits too much. Mm-hmm. Has he ever set foot in the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy? Like, it seems like he's never, like, either he doesn't listen and he's the least coachable person in the world, or he's never actually been in Robert Garcia's boxing gym because he's defensively irresponsible. It's not that he get tagged. It's like he walks in with his hands down.
Yeah.
And he doesn't fire a jab. It's like, how does he fight? Like, you look at Robert Garcia Boxing Academy, you have guys like Hector Tanahara, you get Mikey Garcia. Like, their fundamentals are really, really good. Virgil Ortiz, they're fundamentally sound fighters. Josh Franco. This guy, like, does he look like any of those guys? Does it look like he's listened to Robert Garcia? I always forget he's trained by Robert Garcia because he's so fundamentally bad. He never throws a jab. If okay, just forget how bad defensively he is just for a minute. If he could just fire a jab, he could keep people off him because he's got really good power, right? But he doesn't fire a jab. He's just looking to set up power shots. And it's like, I don't see how, like, let's get him in the ring with Munguia because that's the only, I mean, and maybe a bomb lands because someone who's just defensively as bad as he is. Like, I don't see, like, I was on.
By the way, Munguia would win that because he just throws a jab more.
Probably. There was just, like, I was on board with Adames because coming up, he was knocking people out. Like, his offensively, he throws good power, good combinations.
Yeah,
he puts 2 and 3 and 4 punch combinations together. But at the higher level, and Teixeira is marginally a top 10, probably a 15 type of guy. So that's not even an elite level. I mean, I know he's going to be a world champion most likely, but he'll lose it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can't beat those guys, and you were supposed to knock him out, this guy was supposed to be tailor-made for you, but I knew this was going to be a problem. If you fire a jab and you're not just there to be hit, you're going to have some success with Adames. Like, I would kind of pick anyone. Erickson Lubin would watch him.
Oh,
like,
gosh, yes.
This was the level he was supposed to be at, Matt. Like, he was supposed to be their guy. Like, Top Rank had a lot of hopes for him. They've been showing his fights off a lot. They were saying, he's not. I mean, he's so flawed. And I either he doesn't listen to Robert Garcia, or he's actually never set foot in his gym, and Garcia just shows up and works his corner. I can't figure out which one it is. But, like, if you're Robert Garcia and you're not going to listen to me, get out of my gym.
No, I definitely agree with the aspect that he doesn't look like a Robert Garcia fighter. He looks more like a Manny Robles fighter, to be honest. Like, not to send shots at anyone. Manny, huge fan of your work. Obviously, we texted here and there, but I'll be honest, like, that he looks more like a Manny Robles fighter, right? Completely. Or even or Abel Sanchez fighter.
I was going to say Abel Sanchez.
He looks like one of those guys. If you're with Robert Garcia and you don't have a jab and a decent high guard, like, what are you doing? That's all that he can teach you. And you don't have those things down? Damn. I do wonder if it is whether he really does train there or not, or if he just goes there for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks before the fight. Some fighters do that, right?
Even 2 or 3 weeks for fight after the fight, you'd think you'd pick something up.
But not really. That's such little time in training, to be honest, Gary. Like, in real training, like, you need to be training with a guy 6 months out of the year, the whole year, to really get something out of their style, their coaching methods. Otherwise, 2 weeks to 3 weeks, even a 4 week little rush camp with a trainer, and then other 4 weeks maybe in the Dominican Republic, you're just staying at home. I think that's not good enough. Like, you need to be there the full year. Like, he needs to just move to LA, move to Riverside,
and just live there because he's not going to beat anyone of any caliber. He'll destroy lower level fighters. He'll destroy C-level fighters.
And thing is, like, you see him fight and you go, if he just adds better boxing technique, he has everything to be a good fighter. Like, he has the power, he has the combination work, he has the durability. Yeah, he got dropped in this fight, but that was only after I mean,
a lot of shots.
a lot of shots, and he was wide open for that left hook that dropped him. I mean, I think if you really work with his game and take a year or a year and a half and just drill him consistently, he becomes a better fighter. It's the same thing I've said with Jaime Munguia. Like, if he just really takes time out of his life and dedicates himself to training, he's young enough to make that transition. And Carlos Adames, maybe at this point, is past that point, sort of like Oscar Valdez, where Oscar Valdez is now with Eddie Reynoso. It's too late, in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry. Like, certain dogs can't learn new tricks, right? And I don't think Valdez is going to become all of a sudden the Canelo Alvarez. Ryan Garcia, he has time. He's young enough right now to be with Eddie Reynoso and to have some of that influence there. Adames is on that sort of line where he has enough fights. He's obviously had a long amateur career as well. Maybe he's just the finished product already. You know what I mean? Maybe he's hit his ceiling, and to sort of force another style of coaching, or just even Robert Garcia's style of coaching more down his throat, is just going to be ineffective because it's not going to do anything. He's not going to really retain that knowledge, get that muscle memory. His muscle memory is already set, and that might be an issue with Adames, to be honest. If he was at 5-0 and he moved to Riverside, because that's where the Robert Garcia boxing gym is now, then...
Is that not Oxnard?
No, I don't think it's at Oxnard anymore. It's at Riverside. It used to be at Oxnard, but he moved to Riverside to be more in LA, which is smarter because Oxnard's far as fuck. That's so stupid. I think Adames just missed the boat, to be honest. I think Top Rank missed the boat on this guy. Like, I think he's going to be a great top 20, 30 junior middleweight and put on fun fights, but that's it. That's his ceiling, you know, to be honest. Gary, any other thoughts on this card?
No, I agree. Was there anything else? No, those were the three main fights on the card,
Yeah,
right?
those are the three big fights. I mean, I think there was some other fights on, obviously, but I really didn't watch them. Let's talk about the Monaco card, the match from Monaco card. Alexander Besputin versus Radzab Butaev. You didn't like this fight?
It was fine. I thought Besputin...
Wow, I really enjoyed this fight, to be honest. Like,
really? I thought Besputin won. I thought Besputin looked pretty good. I don't see how he's going to do at the next level. I mean, you like this fight, so I'll let you talk about it. It put me to sleep.
I'll be honest, I really enjoyed this fight. I thought it was a really suspenseful fight, to be honest. I thought Butaev at any point could start landing like shots and gain some momentum and hurt Besputin. Like, it had that feeling to it. And Besputin was just never stopping. He was the Energizer Bunny that would not quit. And there was times where I was thinking he's going to quit. Like, it's round 8 now. It's round 9. It's round 10. Like, he's going to have to drop off here eventually. This energy, this activity rate is too much. Like, he literally did not stop his lateral movement the entire fight. He circled the entire ring the entire 36 minutes. I so wish we had, like, the tennis version where they track the, like, how long you've been running, right? The 100 yards, 2 miles, whatever it is, right? Besputin must have ran a good 20 miles, okay, in that 36 minutes, because he was slipping and rolling under shots and just circling out the entire time, and that was really impressive for a guy that I didn't think he had that ability, first off, or the cardio to do that. He never showed us that, so that was impressive to me. Now, was there anything I saw in either guy here to say, yes, they're ready for the top 5? No, absolutely not. But what I will say is that I am curious about Besputin moving forward, and also Butaev. Like, I know Butaev had the really unsportsmanlike conduct post-fight with the headbutt and all that stuff, but I thought if he puts his game together a little bit better, he can be a force at the 147-pound division. He's big, strong, powerful. He has good shot placement. He doesn't really know when to put his shots together, and that could be taught, in my opinion. Besputin, though, a little bit undersized for the division, maybe lacking pop, but his boxing technique is really above average, so he's going to do quite well against the top 20-ish guys. The top 10 is going to give him issues. But I thought this was a fun fight for two undefeated prospects going up against each other. I enjoyed that. We're going to talk about the Joe Cordina fight in a bit, but this fight and the Cordina fight were examples to me of prospects being matched right and good matchmaking overall. Same with even like Adames Teixeira in a way, right? Like that was smart matchmaking. That was good matchmaking. That was a good fight on paper, and it delivered on paper, in my opinion.
Is Besputin signed with Matchroom, or is this was a
No.
Matchroom?
Besputin is top rank. Butaev was Matchroom.
Okay.
So we're getting Crawford Besputin by April of 2020, guys. Get hyped. Yes. Woohoo.
Do you think that, because I like this Besputin for Virgil Ortiz, do you think it would be easier to make if he was with Matchroom, but he's with Top Rank? Do you think Top Rank would be interested in that fight if they could have it on ESPN?
Maybe, but I think they might just forego that and
just try to get him to Crawford.
Yeah, I can see that being, because honestly, they just don't have a lot of options for Crawford. So this is one of their names that they can just fight. And plus, they offset the cost of Besputin on Matchroom for this event. So now they have money to sort of throw at Crawford to make this fight if they need to, and just sort of put this fight together if they need to.
Besputin is a world champ now.
Get out, Gary. Get out.
That was for the regular belt, right?
Yes, it was for the regular belt. Yeah, the vacant regular belt.
It was Pacquiao's belt. Yeah.
Remember when WBA came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna consolidate all the belts, guys"? Yeah, that was good times. I was so happy with that news, and they just lied to us. But I mean, I think we're all in agreement there that even maybe not in agreement with how this fight turned out or how exciting it was, but I think we're all in agreement that Besputin's not ready for Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford wipes the floor with Besputin. Like it's not competitive at all.
I don't think he's competitive with anyone in the top 10 in the division. Not just Crawford. I don't think he's competitive with Ugas or Garcia. Like, I mean, I didn't see anything good about him. I mean, I really didn't.
Damn.
I was not impressed. Baracus, though. Surgeon, like that was a performance right there. Like, I know it's not exciting, but that's like watching a surgeon doing surgery. Like, she's really good. I mean, she's really, really high level.
I saw a lot of hate on that fight on social
What
media.
do you hate? Like, because it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but like, it's like watching Greg Maddox throw a complete game shutout. It's like, okay, he didn't strike 15 guys out, and he didn't get a spectacular knockout. But what did you not like about it?
Look, I'll say this. I think I'm only going to specifically talk to boxing media here, because fans are going to be assholes no matter what. Like, right? Like, you read the comment section, read boxing Twitter. The fans are assholes. Sorry, guys. Love you, but you guys are assholes. The media, though, like, they have more of a responsibility to say educated points and to make educated points. And the targeted sort of like pinpoint accuracy of criticism of these fights are not entertaining, or maybe like the matchmaking isn't the best, right? I think belies the real issue. It is circumventing what is really the problem with women's boxing. And it's not that matchmaking is bad in women's boxing, because guess what? Matchmaking is bad overall in combat sports, I would say. Right? Like, matchmaking is an issue in boxing, full stop, whether it's women's boxing or men's boxing. So, like,
yeah, that's not gender specific.
That issue doesn't seem that relevant to me. And also, like, the idea of like entertaining fights, like, guys, go out there and watch all 12 or 8 fights of every card every week in the televised. Guess what? Most of them are not entertaining. Like, that's just the reality. You're going to get more stinkers than great fights. That's why your greatest fights of the year list isn't 300 fights. It's only 20 or 30, because that's usually how it happens, guys. The real issue with women's boxing is that there is a structural that women's boxing, structurally speaking, is pushed to the side. That structurally speaking, women's boxing is treated as second-class fighters, both in the rules and regulations in terms of how long women's fights are. Women's fights are treated with kid gloves. There's half the length as men's fight. And people are going to say, oh, it's 2 minutes and 3 minutes. That's not half. Guys, 20 minutes of action for a women's style fight and 36 minutes of action for a men's style fight. That is almost double the length of fighting for a men's style fight. Why? Because they're men. And Marisa Suleiman, when asked about it, said, "Oh, we're not going to change that." Like, really? And the only way we've ever had 3-minute rounds in women's fights because women's boxers have petitioned commissions to allow them to do that. Because the rules in the commissions aren't gender specific. So that's how they got away with that loophole. And for like the Marlon Esparza fight versus, Santiago's going to remember it. I'm not, but I know it's a Marlon Esparza fight. And they petitioned for 3-minute rounds and successfully got 3-minute rounds. And I thought that was a far better fight because of it. But digressing, if those issues are not dealt with, plus the issue of, look, women's fights are not really given the promotional and network platform on even a like 20% rate compared to the men. Like, you'd be lucky to get one women's fight on a card. That's a televised or streamed card, right? Lucky to get one. Until that issue is fixed, until there's actual like money being put into women's boxing, there is structural support, that they're treated equally as men, that they're given opportunities on televised and streamed cards, not to the same degree as men, but to a better degree, then you're never going to see improvement. You're never going to see matchmaking improve. You're never going to see the entertainment value of women's boxing improve. Because there's women on the outside looking in are saying, why would we ever do this? Nothing's getting better. We're still getting paid like dog shit. We're still getting treated like dog shit. We're still getting treated less than men. Well, I can go to MMA, and guess what? I get treated much better. I get paid a lot better. Women get the same amount of fighting time as men. We get treated the same as men. I'm going to go over there. Until that is reversed, women's boxing never really improves to the degree that I think the sexist, critics out there are going to be satisfied. Like, the issue of matchmaking and entertainment never gets fixed unless they get structural support and they get treated the same as men. Just being honest. But digressing, that was a little bit of a rant. Sorry. Brackets, though, to her performance, though. I thought she looked fantastic, and she definitely looked for the knockout. She hunted with that right hand. She just couldn't get it. Bustos was tough, and she was taking shots considerably well. But Brackets, man, technician. Truly one.
What's the other than she didn't get a knockout, right? It's like when Greg Maddox threw a complete game shot in 89 pitches. I don't know if anyone gets that reference, right? But he didn't strike out 15 guys like Clemens. It's like, okay, but he sat everyone down. Like, I don't understand what's the criticism of Brackus' performance. There's nothing. She's a technician. It's like watching a surgeon go in there and perform surgery. It's like it was precision. It was a great performance. I was one saying she's going to start to fade because of her age, and this was not the performance. Like, no, I mean, I'm waiting for her to fade so I can say, see, I'm right. Father Time catches up with everyone. But this was certainly not the performance. It was an excellent performance. And
I'll be honest, she might be the favorite against Katie Taylor. She has the size, the reach, she has the boxing ability. Like, I'm curious about that fight. Like, I really want to see Brackus Katie Taylor.
One I think would beat her, Clarissa Shields, because she's bigger.
Yeah, and I think she's better. I also think she's better.
I think she beats Taylor.
Yeah.
If they were the same size, if they were the same weight, I still think she beats Taylor.
Interesting. Really?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
She's got the experience. I can't find any flaws. I mean, you thought, and I can never say her name right.
Pursoon?
Pursoon beat Katie Taylor, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I mean, like, Katie Taylor is good. Well,
but maybe that's the styles make fights issue. Pursoon is a come forward, aggressive, volume fighter. Brackus is a methodical, work behind the jab, really a slow-paced fighter.
So Katie Taylor would have to outmaneuver her in a chess match. She's not going to do that, right? I mean, if
you don't think Katie Taylor could be the aggressor and work on the inside, throw at high volume, because she does throw at a high volume, and just try to be the Pursoon to Taylor, to Brackus instead. You know what I mean? Like, be the aggressor, be the come forward. Fighter.
She would have to, which isn't really her conventional style. So now she's got to go to plan B and try to outbox a master boxer. She would have to be the aggressor. I don't see how that plays in her favor. I mean, that's her only chance, but now she's out of her comfort zone against.
Yeah, no, I largely agree with you, Gary. Don't get me wrong. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate. I do think it's a really competitive fight, though. Like, I do think Brackus, because of her slow-paced nature, she does leave herself open to lose rounds. Like, she almost lost the fight. Gosh, the HBO fight. What was it? Was it the Triple G undercard? Am I getting that wrong? The Alexandria Lopez fight. Oh no, it was the Kaylee Reyes fight. That's the one. I mean, that fight was significantly close, and Gary just left because he's stuck in this conversation, huh? Nizzy Kid remix saying brackets too big for Taylor. That does seem like a significant factor too. Like, not just the skill level, but I do think the size factor is ginormous. But let's just be honest. Santiago making a good point. Who I pick between Taylor and brackets also depends on whether it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes rounds. If it's 2 minute rounds, I pick brackets easy.
Selena Barrios. Selena Barrios versus everyone.
But Kaylee Reyes almost beat brackets, and she arguably did on the HBO card. I mean, Kaylee Reyes is not Katie Taylor, I would say. You know, brackets, because of her style, she can be outfought and lose rounds. And because it's only 2 minutes, it's hard to judge some of these rounds at times. But digressing from that point, I thought brackets looked great. Cannot wait for the Katie Taylor fight. That's probably going to happen in the summertime. I think Eddie Hearn came out and talked to either Sky or his Matchroom directly through like their outlets that they're looking for an interim fight in between for Katie Taylor and brackets. So expect a Taylor Serrano or Taylor Pursoon fight, and then brackets in the summer. And brackets fight, gosh, who knows? Anyone, because she's really been anyone at this division. And then if brackets wins that, I would expect brackets to then go and look for a Clarissa Shields fight. And also, quick shout out, because both telecasts, I want to give both telecasts this shout out. The ESPN telecast for Valdez Lopez, and the Matchroom DAZN telecast for obviously the Besputin Butaev fight. They both respectively talked about the other side of the street. The announcers for when they're talking about brackets, Taylor, then start talking about brackets, Clarissa Shields, and were very favorable of that matchup, saying like, we have to see that fight at some point as well. Like, that is a fantastic fight. And for ESPN, they talked ad nauseum, obviously, about Wilder and Fury, right? Because that they have a part in that as well, a part promotion or a co-promotion of that. But also talked ad nauseum, obviously, about Ruiz and AJ. So just shout out to the networks actually talking about the other side of the street for once. That's good. Keep doing it like that. We like that, by the way. But moving on, Joe Cordina defeating Mario Enrique Tinoco via unanimous decision in a really fun, competitive fight. Gary, I want to hear your thoughts about this fight because I really haven't heard your thoughts about this yet. So go, Gary. Thoughts on Cordina defeating Tinoco?
Cordina looked good. I know some people are gonna give me because the fight wasn't close. I thought Cordino carried the rounds.
Okay,
but he was made uncomfortable, right? Like, I was kind of on board with the commentators. I know some people had the fight really close.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I had it really close.
Cordina carried. I had it like 7-3 or 8-2. Wow. And I could see rounds going the other way, but like in my eyes,
I like you said, the commentators were saying like, look, our scorecards don't reflect how competitive the fight is throughout, and I think that's what you're trying to say. I agree. You can find a 7-3 or 8-2 scorecard in this fight, but you're giving a lot of the credit to Cordina, and I don't dispute that. I can see why you think that because he was at times even like manhandling Tinoco. Like, he was doing really good work here throughout in different varied ways. I was really impressed by Cordina overall, even though I thought it was far closer than you did.
And Tinoco is a name you may not remember. Well, you do, but I'm talking to the general audience. He beat Jordan Gill. He went the distance with Devin Haney. This is a guy who fights everyone. This is a good fighter. And I thought Cordina did a really good job. I thought he boxed well. I thought he fought on the inside well. I thought
don't forget as well, he went the distance with your favorite fighter, or one of them.
No,
Mario Barrios.
He fought. Wait. I mean, Barrios started small, so it's possible.
130. 130.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was an 8-rounder, and he was a 78-74 scorecard throughout. All three judges had that, so he won 2 rounds in the 8-rounder.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a good. I know his record's not impressive, but he beat Jordan Gill.
Hold on. Time out. He fought Mickey Roman back in the day, and lost via KO. But Miguel Roman got 50, 60 fights. I mean, that guy was a really good fighter. Sorry, continue.
See, I had no idea he fought my boy Mario Barrios. It's interesting. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this is not. I know his record's not great, but it's like, what's the middleweight's name? The super middleweight that knockdown war. And he fights everybody. He beat Willie Monroe.
Darnell
Boone. Darnell Boone.
Oh yes, sorry.
This is that kind of guy. It's like, okay, his record's not great. I get that, but it's not going to be an easy out for anyone. And I thought Cordina controlled the fight, and obviously Thiago had moments for sure. But I thought Cordina handled it very professionally. I'm looking forward to see what's next for him at 130. I thought he fought really well. He boxed well. He fought on the inside well. He smothered the work of Thiago on the inside. He did a lot of things really well. I was impressed with the performance. When I saw the name, I was like, okay, this shouldn't be easy. And it wasn't easy, but I thought he carried most of the rounds.
And it wasn't easy, but again, it also was because we expected Cordina to really struggle with the inside game, and that's largely where he went to throughout this fight. Like, he wanted to be there with Tinoco and fight in the trenches, fight, in the firefight. We're firemen. He wanted to be a fireman at that moment, and I didn't expect that from Cordina. To be honest, I respected him highly after this fight because I expected him to try to be the counterboxer that he usually is and struggle to do that, and still win, but struggle to do that. But no, he sort of threw out the game plan around round 4 or 5 and said, no, let's go, Tinoco. Let's start fighting. And they went at it, and he started throwing bombs to the body. Great combination work on the inside. And for being the taller, rangier fighter, that's harder to do. So that's also really impressive from just a pure technique perspective, because to do that, you have to have good technique to fight the inside fighter that's smaller than you on the inside and outfight him there. And also, I expected maybe the cardio to have some issue because he moved down in weight for the first time since he was fighting at 135. I was curious about that. Never tired out. Never seemed to dip at all. That's impressive. So Cordina at 130 is interesting. I thought at 135 he was getting lost in the shuffle a little bit from all the good prospects, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and others. It seemed, Tifa Lopez, for example. But at 130, it's such a barren division after you get past the 6th or 7th guy that he might easily sneak in there and get some good wins here against quality names too. I would love to see a Castellanos fight for Cordina. Someone of that ilk that has been there, that is a veteran, that maybe has picked up a regular belt or a full belt here and there, but is longer in the tooth, that is going to give you the much-needed learning experience that even this was, but another version of that. And then, I'll be honest, you need if I'm Eddie, you give him a Castellanos fight, and then you throw him in there with a Tevin Farmer, a Joseph Diaz. You throw him in there against someone that is really good, and see how special Cordina is. He loses. Oh, well, he's young. He can bounce back. If he wins, then you have a bona fide special talent on your hands.
What about a fight with Gutierrez, given Gutierrez tries to make the weight? I got one for you. Cordina versus Valdez. Who you got?
Cordina. Come on, man. If Adam Lopez could out-jab and out-box Oscar Valdez, Cordina is going to school him. I'll be honest.
Jason Sosa.
Ooh.
That's a good matchup, right?
I love that. No, I was looking for something like that. Yes, perfect fight. A guy that's going to give him rounds. That's, that's sort of the same sort of checklist of what you want to see from a Tinoco. You want the next version of that, the better version of that, like a Jason Sosa. No, I like that fight a lot. There's a lot of good fights, honestly, for him now at 130, and plus he's more of the lone prospect of the mix. There's no one else in the division that can sort of steal his thunder as a prospect. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and Tifa Lopez are all dueling it out for attention in another division now.
And Tanahara.
That's right. I forgot about Tanahara. My bad. Apologies. Moving on, unless you have any other thoughts about Cordina. Willie Zhang beating Andrea Rudeneko via unanimous decision. And Zhang is just one of those guys where I don't know how good he is. He looks good. Sort of like Adam Onaki, Gerald Miller, a guy that puts fun fights together for a heavyweight, right? Puts good activity rate together, puts combinations together. But I don't know if he's going to beat any of these top 5 guys. Like, I need to see him against better opposition. But he looked good here. I want to give that. I thought his shot selection was really excellent. I thought his accuracy was on point, much more so than the Adwanaki and Jem Millers of the world, to be honest. I thought Zhang is a far more accurate puncher of that sort of type of fighter. But the cardio wasn't there in the later half of the fight. And plus, I think he is super hittable, and that is an issue moving forward. But digressing, Gary, did you see Zhang versus Rudenenko?
I gotta be honest. I was watching college football all afternoon.
That's fine.
I had to go back and I was up till about 4 or 5 in the morning watching fights, catching up on everything. This one got cut off the list. I didn't get to watch this one.
You know what? I'll say this: watch like the first few rounds, and then just ignore the rest of the fight. Just sort of get a gauge of him. But smart pick overall, let's be honest. Moving on, Zolani Tete losing in dramatic upset fashion to John Rael Casimero in the 3rd round. And, watching this fight back, it was clear from a very early point that Casimero was figuring out the angles and figuring out the foot placement in just a quicker fashion than Tete. Tete seemed to be just lagging behind the movement of Casimero. Was trying to react to it and just too slow to react. Maybe that was due to the layoff, due to the injury. God knows. Maybe Tete was just overrated. But Casimero just, again, quickly was picking that outside foot placement, was sort of angling for that right hook, and by the 3rd round was landing it and then landed it in succession, a double right hook. So a little combo, dropped Tete. And from that point on, the fight was over. Like, the ref really gave Tete the benefit of the doubt when he probably shouldn't have. Tete wasn't really stable when he got back from that first knockdown, was swaying into the ropes, wasn't responsive to the ref. It was a bad stoppage, to be honest. They could have stopped it from that first knockdown, to be honest. And Casimero probably setting up a big fight with either Inoue, Obali, or a come-home fight with Joshua Greer Jr. Either one of those 3 I'm in favor of. And Casimero, one of those guys that has been through the ringer, has like the Amnat Renarog fight, for example, was such a devastating fight that Casimero is one of those guys I root for naturally. He's a guy that's been beat up through the sport of boxing, but has always put on good fights. And this was just a really impressive performance from him. He really put it all together here. Gary, your thoughts on Casimero picking up the big win against Tete?
First off, it was a great performance. You're right. The stoppage was entirely too late. I mean, once he got up, you could see he had no idea where he was. That went on way too, and then he fell down. Mm-hmm. It's at that point, it's okay, he has no idea where he is, and he can't stand up. Why are we letting this fight go on? And then he got knocked down again, and again they let it go on. The stoppage was entirely too late. I think we maybe overrated Tete a little bit. I mean, he's got the win over Villanueva. I mean, I know he hasn't lost before this since 2012 or something like that, but he doesn't have a whole plethora of great names. He beat Navarez after Navarez got blown out by Inoue and was 42 years old. And then he beat a guy, the Russian guy, who had 4 professional fights. I mean, is it possible that Tete was never as good as we build him up to be?
And I just want to remind people, he beat Navarez 4 years after Inoue beat him. 4 years. Not 4 fights, 4 years. Just want to remind people about that. Sorry. Continue, Gary.
Literally 42, I think, when he beat him, right? So I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. I mean, again, Tete's a good athlete. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. I'm just saying, I don't think that he's at the level of those other guys. When Burnett was in the division, or Inoue, or Donaire, I don't think, or Obali, and Matt's going to disagree with that. I don't I think Charlie Edwards beats him. I think Ashton Plichte beats him. I don't think I don't think that he's as good as everyone had him built up to be. I think he was overrated a bit.
Agreed. I agree completely that Tete was overrated. I think the UK latched on to him a little bit, and that gave him a lot of hype. When I don't think he really deserved it from a Navarez win. When that Navarez win really didn't deserve that much attention and hype. But maybe I missed it there. Were you saying that Tete is not on the level of Obali? Or
No, he's on the level of Obali. I just think Obali beats him.
no,
Like,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
same
Completely.
level probably, right?
Yeah.
But Obali beats him.
Like Manny Rodriguez, I think would beat Tete. You know, that's a guy like I've criticized a lot, right? Is Manny Rodriguez, but I would pick him to beat Tete easily. To be honest, I don't think Tete is that good. I've never thought he was that good. I think he was a decent fighter, but a fighter that maybe again was overrated to a large degree, and maybe hadn't really earned the hype that he was receiving, especially just the network backing from BT. That was significant overall. But moving forward, Casimero, I mean, do you think that he beats Obali, Inoue, or Joshua Greer? Like, those seem to be the next 3 fights for him.
But you don't think it's going to be a Charlie Edwards rematch?
No, I don't think that's next.
Okay.
No. I mean, maybe. I mean, that could be next. But, Charlie, buddy, like, you ran from Jesus Martinez because you didn't want that work. Let's just be honest about it. Or, no, sorry, you couldn't make the weight. Don't go.
Maybe he could make the weight. I mean, benefit of the doubt. I'm not in his training camp. I don't know how hard those legs.
And it would mean Charlie Edwards moving up 2 weight classes, not 1. Right? This fight was at 118. Edwards was at 112. He moved up to 115.
You're right. Yeah,
so yeah, I know Charlie Edwards was there, and like he was like, you know, talking to Casimero, right? Obviously, but they're not in the same.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not in the same universe right now, to be honest. I think Casimero Greer is probably the fight we get next.
I'm in that. I'm going to take Greer. I got to roll with my guy. I've been hyping him for years. I can't pick against him in a title fight now. I have to pick him.
You gonna pick Greer to? And Greer, by the way, did go online and say that he won the fight. So
I'm going down on that ship, right? I'm going down on the Josh Greer ship. I hyped that guy since I saw him on a Roy Jones Jr. card in Stone, Iowa, like 2.5 years ago. Like, this is my guy. This guy is spectacular. I'm going down on that Josh Greer ship. And if I'm right, I'm going to be right alone, but I'm not abandoning him.
So because you think Joshua Greer would beat Casimero, you probably would think Obali and Inoue obviously beat Casimero as well, right?
Oh, Inoue for sure.
Inoue for sure. But
You said?
Obali, the other champion.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? You think Obali beats Casimero?
Casimero landed a big shot on Tete. Like,
Okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's a guy like I'm not. Yeah, Casimero is a rugged guy. He's a good fighter. I don't know if he can beat more world champs. Like, I don't know if he's that good.
Damn, shots from Gary over here, man. Hot takes. Obali did struggle against Takuma Inoue, a guy that has, 2 knockouts to his name?
Yeah, but he was never in trouble. Like, he was never almost knocked out. It's not like he
was hurt.
I don't really remember. The fight was, I guess it was not long ago. I remember it being very close and Obali having to win the last few rounds to wrap it up.
That for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was hurt in that fight too.
That's not a good sign.
I put this way. He got touched up by Witherspoon. Sorry, wrong fighter. That's Usyk. Just to piss off Rob somewhere listening. But he definitely got touched up in that fight by Inoue. Let's just be honest about it. But digressing from that, I think we're pretty much in agreement here with Casimero and Tete. I did not watch the rest of this undercard, to be honest. I know there were some good fights here that I know people have been talking about. I have not watched them yet. Just haven't had time. So, Gary, I know you watched some of this undercard. Thoughts on, I think it was the Lerone Richards and Lennox Clark fight you were talking about. Thoughts on the undercard here?
Is one of those guys. If you guys haven't watched it, he's a 168-pounder. Really southpaw. Really tricky. Like, he uses his space. His footwork is excellent. And then when you get him against the ropes, his head movement, and he slips punches really well. This is just a guy who's going to sell 0 tickets because his style is boring. He knocks nobody out. He has no pop on his punches. But he's going to win a lot of fights. I don't know if it translates at the highest level because of lack of power. But, like, if I'm a guy, if I'm a promoter and I have a 15-0 super middleweight, I don't dare put my guy in the ring with him because it's kind of like Korobov. It's like, even if I win, he's not going to look good, and I very well could lose. Like, if I'm Jamal Charlo, stay the hell away from this guy, right? Like, just, like, he's never going to sell a lot of tickets, but he's going to win a ton of fights based off all of his skill. Like, he can basically go as far as his boxing skill takes him, right? Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to stand up against big punchers, but he makes you miss at close range, which means maybe he can compete at the highest level, because even when you get in on him, you still can't hit him. Like, I was really, really impressed. And a lot of people are going to look at it and say, well, what's so good about him? Look how he maintains distance. Look how he escapes trouble. And when you do get him against the ropes, look at how he makes you miss. So if you can't hit him from long range and you can't hit him from inside, how are you going to hit him? And one of the judges had that fight even, I think, which is absolutely ridiculous. The other two judges had it wide. But, I mean, this guy's going to be problems for a long time to come. This is going to be a perennial top 10 to 15 guy, and maybe his ceiling is higher than that.
I want to say, I could be wrong about this. One of the judges that was caught up with a bad scorecard this last weekend was the same judge, was one of the same judges that scored it for Callum Smith in the John Ryder fight, I want to say.
I didn't even hear what judge had it.
I forget which one it was, but I want to say it was maybe the Richards-Clark fight. And it was Marcus McDonald's, the judge that scored it for Lennox Clark, by the way.
Oh, they scored it for him. Okay.
Yeah, not a draw. Scored it for him. And PSK is saying, for both of us, Dennis McCann is a future kid to watch. He's 18 years old. He was on this card. Apparently, he's 4-0. He defeated Stefan Slavic, who's 10-36-2. Still obviously fighting bad opposition, but I'll check him out for sure, PSK, because you're mentioning him. Gary, any other thoughts on this undercard?
No, that's it. I just wanted to give a shout out to LaRon Richards. I mean, if you haven't watched it, go watch him. Like, there's a lot. There's something to that kid. He's one of those tricky southpaws who's going to be trouble for a lot of high level fighters.
Now let's get to the news of the day, Gary. This is an interesting article, obviously from Fight Hype. Headline: DAZN buying the boxing media? ? From Paul Magano. I believe is how you pronounce his name. If I mispronounced that, Paul, I apologize. And look, I'm not going to read the whole article. I definitely implore everyone to read it in its entirety. I think it's a decent piece. I'm going to link it here in the live chat for anyone that wants to see it and read it themselves, where I talk about it. Also, want to say that Luke Thomas, a MMA reporter, had a very recent article on Bloody Elbow, or interview on Bloody Elbow, speaking about sort of the same topic. So if you guys want to read that one as well, I implore you guys to read that one as well. And plus, Eddie Hearn had an interview here with Boxing News TV saying that promoters shouldn't worry about journalistic integrity. I implore everyone to watch that video as well. We're not going to play it, though, because just to respect Boxing News TV, a fellow small channel as ourselves, I'm just pushing people to go watch it on their channel. I think that's what they deserve, because it's a good interview. Though I do wish there were some follow-up questions, because they really didn't ask any follow-up questions. But I get it. Access, it's hard to ask hard questions. And look, here's the gist of what's being alleged, what has been admitted, and so forth. The gist of it is that DAZN is looking to acquire, either through direct ownership or investment, of media outlets. They've already officially done it with Sporting News. I think Sporting News Today with Andreas Hale and others there. This is something that I've known about for a while. I thought was public knowledge, but apparently it wasn't. And then we have the alleged investment of DAZN into the Ring Magazine and Ring TV, obviously because of the investment of Golden Boy Promotions. Golden Boy Promotions being a majority owner of the Ring. There's a thinking and allegation through this article that DAZN is either looking to, or they have invested into the Ring Magazine, or ringtv.com, whichever determination or classification you want to use there. And on top of that, the accusation and allegation that DAZN has been paying for the accommodations of certain media members. And Eddie Hearn confirming that he pays for certain media members' hotels and flights. Coogan Cash is obviously of IFL, and he brought up Dan Rayfield of ESPN as two media members. Specifically, he mentioned that he's paid for their accommodations. Now, look, I have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's hard to sort of wrap my mind about where I want to start and end and how I want to frame this discussion, because it's a big discussion. It's one that is, it's one that I think there's a lot of context to it that needs to be explained, that there's caveats to this discussion that needs to be put out. So I'm going to try to do my best here. If I leave anything out, I apologize. If I leave anything significant out, we're definitely going to talk about it again then. Because this is an important topic to have as media, as just a boxing community, as a combat sports community. First off, I want to make a caveat. Fight Hype is the one reporting this. Paul Magano is listed under PBC's website as one of their writers, along with people like Sean Tete and others. Who, again, Sean Tete, I respect, highly respect his work, a good friend of mine. I don't have, let's get my opinion out the way. I don't have an inherent issue with media members taking compensation or just taking any sort of accommodations from promoters and networks on its surface. I have no issue with that, to be honest, just because of the landscape of the industry and how to make money in it. I don't fault anyone for that. What I do fault people for doing is not disclosing that information. Okay? When you are a journalist, when you are a reporter, when you're a writer, when you're an interviewer, whatever it may be, it is absolutely key and essential for you to disclose whatever compensation you're receiving from networks or promoters that may impact your reporting. Like, this is journalism 101. So, like, Paul Magano and Fight Hype, Fight Hype being an outlet that has been significantly connected to Floyd Mayweather's career for the last 20 years, there is a level of pot calling the kettle black here, which I have an issue with. But I do want to just say that caveat and put it to the side, because I think that it's a point to address, but it's a point that does get us off on a tangent that doesn't really address the issue here. And when we talk about media members being bought off or paid for it, I don't want to use it as a monolith as well, because I've seen a lot of people online using that, like Fred Gavin of Sunday Puncher, going out there and saying that, like, basically making the accusation that, like, everybody ringside is paid off. That's just wrong. That just is not true. Like, I've been ringside for tons of fights. I've never received any compensation in any way from any promoter or network. Just have not. I've received compensation from a sponsorship, Chivas Regal, once upon a time with a different outlet. But, again, long time ago. Sort of dialing back. I think this lack of disclosure from certain media members, like Coogan, for example, who went on a very public back and forth online with Fight Hype Ben Thompson and refuting these claims, and then Eddie Hearn coming out and saying, no, I've paid for his accommodations. You can't be doing that, Coogan. You just can't. Okay? And it's one thing to take any sort of compensation from a promoter or network and disclose that, which I think is fine. And it's different from taking that compensation and then denying you've taken it and not disclosing it. That's when we have an aspect of shadiness, an aspect of conflict of interest that gets brought up in terms of media. Because now we have smoked the fire that your reporting has been altered because you're lying about it, because you're hiding the truth. And as a reporter, your basic job is to report the truth. A secondary order is to hold truth to power. What that means is that when we report on the powerful, corporations, networks, promoters, whoever it may be, and this goes with every media or journalistic industry, that we are supposed to put that truth and put it to the face of power, whatever that power may be, and make them face the reality. That's our basic duty. So when Eddie Hearn's out there saying that, look, it's not our job to worry about journalistic integrity, he's right. He is the powerful. He is the one that we are supposed to be adversarial to and to hold the truth to. So of course he's going to want to pay more media members, and same with Bob Arum coming out with Woodsy's article and Michael Woods echoing these statements and saying that he agrees with this concept. I think, Woods, you need to frame it better. You do. Like, you need to talk about disclosure and the fact that you said that this is okay and didn't add that aspect to it is an issue. Because now I hold you almost in suspicion here, Michael Woods, and everyone here. If Dan Rayfield and the highest order, the highest people in media are getting compensated and not disclosing this information, then of course fans are going to assume people like me and you, Gary, and others are all paid off. And that's an issue. It's a significant issue. And promoters and networks are never going to try to help us on that case. They're always going to be the ones to want to pay us and to compensate us. And as media, we should recognize that. And maybe not accept it with opening arms and an opening embrace. And if you do accept it, that's fine. But disclose that fucking information at the very least. And I don't understand why this is so hard. And the allegations of like behind the gloves and IFL, I mean, I was there at KSI Logan Paul, which is the crux of the allegation from the Fight Hype here, is that event. I understand the criticism there. I was there next to Michelle Phelps when she got a promoter's badge and not a media member's badge, which gave her certain access behind the scenes. Like, I saw it with IFL. I've seen it with bigger outlets like Fight Hype even, which makes it, again, add to the caveat that I explained in the very beginning, I don't want Fight Hype being the one to pointing the finger here. They are the ones that are a part of the issue here. Okay? Paul Magano and Fight Hype are also part of the issue here. Not just IFL, not just Fight Hype. Okay? Not just Behind the Gloves, not just any of these other outlets, even though they all are part of the issue. Okay? And until honestly it takes people like me and other smaller outlets who don't take money because we're not big enough to be offered the money, it's going to take us to really call out the bigger channels. And guess what? I know it's an uphill battle for any of those smaller channels listening right now, but you got to do it. You have to call these things out. Because if you're not taking compensation, and let's say if that's something that you care about, that you don't take compensation, then you have to be vocal here. And you have to be vocal against your fellow media members, which sometimes you're friends with. Okay? But this issue is a multifaceted issue. I know I've been ranting and raving here for a bit. And I don't know if I've been really coherent here. I apologize. But it's just one that gets me upset. It's one that I see every time I go to an event. So I understand the issue and the frustration from fans and media alike. But I also don't want this conversation to be shifted to the way Eddie Hearn is framing it, the way that Fight Hype has been framing it, because right now they're framing it as they're the ones that are the righteous ones in the group, and they're not. They're also to blame here. And there's just a lot of issues with this topic and with media integrity in the sport and just media integrity, period, that I don't know if I can even tackle here for a 2-hour show if that was the single topic. It's a significant issue. And
I want to...
Sorry, go, Gary. I've been ranting.
I want to get into that. So, a couple of things. If they're paying ESPN's boxing reporter, if they're paying his accommodations, how does ESPN... Look, it's not like they paid for, a small independent journalist to cover a fight, which would be suspicious. They paid for the leader of the sports world's boxing reporter. Like, why would they have to pay his accommodations? Disney could write that check and have no idea the money was gone, right? Like, that's part of his compensation is to travel. So why would Eddie Hearn pay for that? That tells me that that's not the only thing he's paying Dan Rayfield for. That he's paying him for other things too. I'm just telling you, I don't have evidence of that.
No. And look, I mean, obviously, like Eddie went out there and said, like, look, I take him out to dinner too. We go out for wine. Why wouldn't I take media out for a little bit of wine, red wine? And it's funny, like Eddie, of course, frames it. And again, check out the interview and all that stuff. But, of course, he frames it.
Dan Rayfield seriously. First, because I don't think he knows anything about boxing, A. And B, because he's comic book guy. Like, I mean, he's I don't want to get into that. But, like, if obviously you're buttering your bread. There's no reason to pay for any ESPN reporter's accommodation when ESPN covers that check. It's not like he's writing the check out of his own pocket and you're trying to be a nice guy to him. You're trying to get on ESPN's good side using him. Why do you want to get on ESPN's good side? And then, and no disrespect to Beyond the Gloves, Michelle Phelps. I bet her. She's cool people. But why?
No, she's
and
nice. Yeah, she's
if
nice.
it would be a promoter's badge, I would take it too. So I'm not knocking her for taking it. Why are they giving someone in the media a promoter's badge? Like, why is that?
Why? Well, it's the so how they do it. I mean, like you've been to several fights, but I know you've been to smaller events as credential media. Obviously you have like your media section or badge, and then you have like promoters, and they would just have promoters badge for like VIPs as well. People that need to get behind the scenes and in the dressing rooms, and maybe aren't really the promoters, right? So it's not just. I just want to make that point clear for people to understand how it's put out there. But yeah, I've seen tons of bigger outlets get that special badge, the promoter's badge, so they can go behind the scenes. It happens all the time. Like this isn't out of the norm. And when Eddie's out there saying like, look, we don't ever ask them to do like to cover us in a certain light, he's right. That never happens, probably. It's just assumed. That's how relationships work.
If you don't, that access is gone. How about that? Right? Like,
and it's not even just that. Look, like it's like from a subconscious perspective. If I get stuff from you and we're friendly, or you're going out to dinner, you're buying me wine, you get me special access to behind the scenes and in the dressing rooms and stuff, my natural occurrence is not rock the boat. My natural human nature is to not rock that boat. It never needs to be stated out loud.
Not Matt. Matt's nature is to always rock the boat, but he's talking about hypothetical. Like
yes.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. And Darius Copeland saying both passes get you behind the scenes. No, they don't, Darius. Look, Darius, I don't know who you are, bro. You're you have no picture avatar on YouTube. I've been to every major event basically in LA of the last 3-4 years, it seems. Okay, trust me.
There are different passes that get you different access to different places.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Like, and also there's certain media passes that don't get you ringside media as well. For example, KSI Logan Paul, I did not have ringside credentials. I had the secondary media credentials, so I had to go sit in the stands. It was fantastic, by the way. Lovely time. Okay, but like, trust me, Darius, I know this. I'm credentialed. You're not, probably, I'm assuming. Or if you are, what the fuck you doing here in my live chat, bro? Go do some work.
Yeah, you're breaking some rules. If you're not credentialed, you're walking backstage. It's like that your pass doesn't allow you back there. There's another pass, a promoter's pass, that allows you backstage. Yours allows you in the media section.
Yes. Production crew gets you backstage. Yeah, that's also not what we're talking about here, because Behind the Gloves is not production crew. Let's just be honest here. They're not. It's an outlet. It's a news outlet. They had ringside seats, and they also had a promoter badge to go behind the scenes. I was there, Darius. I was right next to Michelle when she got her credentials. You were not. I don't understand why people have to argue. People are weird, Gary. Like, I don't understand the need to defend corruption, to use the phrase that everyone loves to throw out, because that's what this is. It's just usually unspoken of corruption. There's no direct conversation of, hey, I'm giving you this access. Please don't ask these questions. That's just assumed.
So there's been studies on this. When people have a preconceived notion in their head, and that preconceived notion in their head is debunked thoroughly, 80 to 90% of people actually double down and argue the now debunked side than actually changing their mind. So they had something in their head that they believed to be true. And now you're saying that's not true. So they're for 80 to 90% of people, they're like, no, that has to be true. So I have to keep arguing this, even though it's been put in front of me that it's wrong. You can go look up these studies on it. I mean, it's not a small majority. It's a massive majority.
Oh, I'm not surprised with that at all. Ellie's saying this isn't new, though, is it? No, of course it's not new. This has been happening since the day of the dawn of time for media. Look up yellow journalism, Ellie. If you want to really go down the rabbit hole of the awful history of journalism and the corruption of journalism in the U.S. or just worldwide, type in yellow journalism. You're gonna just be fascinated by what you read. Trust me here. But this issue is not new. It's not different than what we've been dealing with, I think, for the last 100 years of media. But it's one that does get forgotten of. It's a topic that does get brought up here and there and then gets forgotten about. Why? Because the powers that be, the networks and promoters, will do the Eddie Hearn and say, no, this is fine, guys. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. And most casual fans now that are online just eat up what the promoters say. Right? I mean, that's just how it is. And PSK, don't ever bring up that bullshit person in my chat again. He's scum. He's a piece of shit person. Fuck him. Moving on.
I didn't even see who we were talking.
I'm not. No, he doesn't get any airtime on this show. Fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit person. But Gary, any other thoughts on like? Because obviously, like you're a part of media, but you're a little more out of it than I am. You're, I would say, more of a fan than media, right? Same with like Rob, right? Rob's more of a fan than media. Foo, more of a fan than media. Thoughts from a fan's perspective when you hear stuff like this? Like, does this make you like? How do you develop trust in any media member or media outlet when you hear stuff like this as a fan?
I mean, you don't, right? Like that's what you got. You have to double check something. Like just because Dan Raphael says something doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it false, but it doesn't make it true, right? So I want another source for that, right? Like, well, with the old saying in journalism is somebody reports that their mother said they love them, go check it out. Go talk to their mother. Go make sure they said that. Go get another source, right? But this isn't just sports. I mean, the medium in and of itself is corrupt. Like, if you think this is explicit to boxing,
oh yeah,
there's no way, right? Like this happens all over the place, right? This happens in, like, I have a friend who covers like shows, like Broadway shows.
Okay.
I'm sure this happens there too. Like you write us a good report, and we'll let you whatever is there backstage access. I'm sure this is not specific to boxing, right? But so like that, like it's like the fact that it's Dan, who I don't like to start with. Just like I don't think he's good at his job. I don't think he knows anything about boxing. And that why would Eddie have to pay him off? I mean, he's obviously paying him off. I mean, if this was college sports, Eddie Hearn would be done for what he just did. Like you realize that, right? Like if this was like an NCAA thing, and I'm taking him out to buy, if I'm paying for his accommodations and buying him dinner and buying him steak and buying him, do you know how much that guy probably eats? You know what I'm saying? Like this is I mean. And I understand why all parties do it. And I guess there's no law against it, so I guess there's nothing you could do about it. But you just can't trust anything that you get. But I never took anything Dan said. Now, if Dan reports something, okay, fine. But if like when Dan gives me his take on a fight, I don't care what Dan thinks. Like I don't doubt a lot of the things that Dan reports. Like when he breaks a story, there's probably some truth to it. But when Dan gives me his hot take on a fight or chats with Dan, I mean, I don't.
I think the chats with Dan died, right? He doesn't even do those anymore, does he?
I don't know.
Remember, he tried to convert that into like a podcast and a show, and then
he doesn't know anything about boxing. Like he's not good. Like he's a fan, but he doesn't know the sport. Like he would like when we're talking about with Cortina or LaRon Richards. He can't sit there and break down what he just saw. Like he doesn't know anything.
Gary, man, like hey, anytime someone else rants on this show, I get so happy, man. Let's be honest. Ringside reporter saying it's a conflict of interest, to be honest. No, it is. It is a conflict of interest. It's just a obvious one. And it's one that I think that they're hoping that it's so blatant that it becomes normalized. And it kind of has been. Because, like, again, if the number one sports news outlet in the world, ESPN, doesn't give a shit about journalistic ethics, because they clearly don't. Okay, they had a Conor McGregor announcement for his next fight. They literally put his 2 rape investigations at the very bottom of the article. They put a bar brawl he was in, that wasn't really a brawl, above the rape investigations. Like, that's ESPN now. Maybe it's ESPN that was always there. But if that highest level of sports journalism in the United States is automatically, blatantly corrupt or, what's the right word, compromised in a way, then, again, just look at the bottom, just keep going down the bottom of sports media. It's just, how are they all not like that? How is all media not like that? Because, again, access is so king. Access matters more than anything, guys. And, like, again, I didn't link this in the chat, but I really implore everyone to read Luke Thomas's interview on BloodyElbow.com, talking about how media needs to attach itself to power to be successful. That media members, if they don't attach themselves to power, whether it be a network, promoter, fighter, someone of power in the industry, they never really make it that far. And if they do, it's through extremely long and hard work that no one really is grateful for. And he's right. Like, think about like our outlet, not to toot our own horn here. You know, we have worked day in and day out for years now and put out, I think, more substantive content than 99% of other boxing channels. We don't do really any interviews. We don't really care about any of the access. I don't really care about going to events because of that access and because of the dynamic relationship automatically involved with getting access. And it shows. It shows in how hard it is for us to grow as a channel. Because we're not attached to any of those in power. And that means something. Whether it's because casual fans only care about those in power because that's all they see, or whether it's because those in power open the doors for success, it's beside the point. That issue is prevalent for a lot of us small channels out there that are independent, that do go about it the right way. Okay, I'm not saying those channels out there that just spread, gossip and rumors. Fuck those channels. Those channels are equally just as bad. That don't get any of the access, but they only don't get access because they just gossip the whole time. Fuck those channels. That add no substance to the community. Fuck those channels as well. But those of us that are out there actually putting in the good work day in and day out, trying to give you the real news and break it down in a substantive way, it's an uphill battle every time. And that goes in every media industry as well. Not just boxing, goes in MMA, goes in politics, entertainment, movies, TV, Broadway. Every media industry is like that. But if you do not attach yourself to those in power, it is an uphill battle. And it just is. Just is the way it is. Shout out to capitalism. But anyways, Gary, any other thoughts on DAZN, Matchroom, others potentially trying to buy access or buy media outlets, media members, compensation, the likes?
Well, as far as buying Fight Hype and the Ring Magazine, buying a Ring Magazine is kind of a charitable donation right now. I mean, Ring Magazine has been linked with boxing for 100 years, right? For it to go out of business, which I would guess is the other option, is fine, but it's really sad, right? Like, I remember reading Ring Magazine when I was 10 years old. Like, I was the weird kid in school when I was like 10, 12 years old. It was like, bring out your reading material. I'd bring out a Ring Magazine. And now for it to be gone, I mean, no one reads it, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But it would just be a sad day. It's probably, but Golden Boy owned it for how long, right? And I guess Golden Boy still has a stake in it.
They have a majority stake in it.
They still have a majority stake in it.
From my knowledge, yeah. That has not changed.
Okay.
Yeah. From the allegation here, and which makes sense, to be honest, from the Fight Hype article, is that through the investment in Golden Boy promotions from DAZN, a part of that was investing into Ring Magazine, but not in ownership, is the allegation. It's just an investment. Whatever, partnership, ownership, those are, differences here. But they do own outright Sporting News Today. That they do own that outlet right now.
My point was, would it be weird if, say, the Dallas Maverick owned Slam Magazine, which is a basketball magazine? It's a really popular basketball magazine. Like, would that be weird? Do you think the Mavs would get a lot of attention in that magazine? You know what I'm saying? It's weird for a promoter. But again, it's Ring Magazine. It's a nostalgia thing. I don't think. When was the last time you read a Ring Magazine?
I'll be honest. I try to go away from that outlet as fast as possible.
Well, you don't like Golden Boy, but
yeah, I don't like Golden Boy. I think that the fact that this is news now with the Ring Magazine in a way is weird because it's been news for decades now, in my opinion. That this issue with Ring Magazine and them being compromised as a news outlet. It's been that way for a long time because of the Golden Boy ownership. And the fact that that's never been a big sticking point for the fandom and the community has always bugged me. Because that's an issue. You're right. It's the oldest, most treasured magazine outlet in all of boxing history. And it got bought up by a fucking promoter. And let's be honest, guys, like a second-rate promoter too. Like that to me is disgusting. It should be more of a topic of conversation.
At the time, Golden Boy was
Okay, at the time maybe you're right, but right now, fuck second-rate promoter. Fuck him. He doesn't even show up for Virgil Ortiz's or Canelo's press conferences really most of the time. What is he doing? But anyways, Gary, any other thoughts?
no.
DAZN and Matchroom announcing a bunch of these fighters on the undercard, the Jacobs Chavez card, which is an illegal card. Maurice Hooker, Liam Smith, Josh Kelly, Rosado, who we know is going to replace Chavez Jr. in a couple weeks, and Danir Lusanov. Also, Nikita Bobby and some other guys. Reminding everyone that this card is currently breaking federal and state law. It's breaking the law, the federal law of the 1996 Professional Boxing Safety Act and the 1999 Muhammad Ali Reform Act. Also breaking Nevada state law. Just want to remind everyone about that. And plus, if Arizona obviously is part of the ABC, it's breaking their own law as well. And Arizona just kind of at this point just doesn't seem to care. Just want to remind everyone about that. As Matchroom is still promoting this bullshit, still putting out undercard information for this. All the while, this card is breaking numerous laws at different levels. Just want to keep reminding everyone that. Because, again, one of those topics that seems no one wants to bring up. You know, like, did anyone this weekend in Monaco ask Eddie about, hey, you're breaking the Ali Act and the Professional Boxing Safety Act in 1996. What's the deal here? You want to talk about this? No question about that at all. Why? Because they have access. They're not going to rock the boat. We know it. Gary, any thoughts on the undercard of this event?
It's on the illegal event?
Yes, on the illegal event, yes.
So when this whole charade is over and it is Gabe Rosado, then we won't call it the illegal event anymore. We'll just call it the event. When Chavez is out of the fight and it's Gabe Rosado, the day before the fight, you know, Eddie's like, keep training, Gabe. You're fighting Jacobs. You're not fighting. I don't even remember who he's supposed to fight. You're fighting Jacobs.
We just want to sell more tickets here, please.
Sell more tickets, okay? Because this was probably a bad idea, and it's a horrible idea. It's a great idea in New York or Philly. It's a horrible idea in Phoenix, but I've already paid for the venue. It's already booked. So just keep training, preparing for Jacobs, and we'll announce it 2 days before the fight. Okay, good.
Because it's going to happen that way. I mean, I don't see how you don't have it where it's December 18th, the hearing happens in Nevada. They uphold the suspension and add like a 6 months to it or whatever, right? Give him a slap on the wrist, but a slap on the wrist is still going to mean that he's ineligible and suspended by a ABC commission. Therefore, Arizona is illegal and breaking federal law by licensing him and allowing him to fight. I mean, if they... I know they're going to do this, but when they do this, I just want to say, everyone, I will be yelling on this show, I told you so. I will have an emergency live stream when that hearing happens, just to keep yelling, I told you so, guys. I told you so. I told you so. Or what Eddie might do is the day before he gets tipped off, hey, Nevada's not going to go your way, buddy. Let's just put Rosado in. And they just put Rosado in before they get the PR nightmare that is December 18th.
It was the right thing to do. You know, I thought about it. I had a good think about it, and I thought that it was handled wrong, so I put Rosado
in. Eddie, knowing Eddie, if he does it just the day before the hearing, he can spin it as how he's the righteous one, and he, had a change of heart, and he wanted to do the right thing for boxing. I mean, come on, this is the Eddie Hearn playbook, and just the promoter's playbook, period. I'm so upset here, guys. Like, this is so frustrating. The only way they're getting away with this right now is because it is a temporary suspension. Because there is that hope and that kind of loophole that it's not finalized. And therefore, in theory, if Nevada came in on December 18th and said, hey, he's clear, they can go about the fight December 20th. And it's no big problem. And maybe that happens. There is a slight possibility that happens. It's Nevada.
No, Nevada has a history, though, of doing the right thing, does it not?
No.
They suspended Tyson for a year. They suspended Margarito, didn't they? Or they didn't suspend Margarito, but they were going to. That's why he had to go to Texas. I feel like they've done things. And look.
Nevada's inconsistent. I will say that. They're inconsistent with their rulings, their punishments. That is the issue. Maybe that they overall in the track record of time kind of do the quote right thing, but they're inconsistent, I would say, a large part of the time. Like, for example, they suspended Chavez far more and punished him far more economically and financially for the weed suspension than was it a diuretic that he also popped for? What was it? I think it was a diuretic, right? Nick Diaz, he got a 5-year suspension for marijuana. When John Molina Jr., I think, got popped in that same hearing, I want to say, or maybe it was another fight, another boxer, and they got off scot-free for, I think it was anabolic steroids. So Nevada's weird. They're inconsistent. But digressing from that point, I just think that Matchroom and DAZN are in Arizona now are hoping that they can just push this off till the 11th hour, and then when the 11th hour happens, they can just say, oh, well, this is why it says on all the ticket stubs, hey, card is subject to change. These things happen. Oh, well. And they're just going to make money off everyone. That's what I would say. And I think we're going to get that Jacobs-Rosado fight in one way or the other on December 20th. And Chavez gets a 6-month, 9-month suspension for evading a test.
Which, again, I don't know how Eddie's going to argue this, but he could argue that Chavez's name, and I don't know, wasn't attached to the fight yet. So he didn't have, or you only have to take the test if your name is attached to it, correct? No.
Nevada received a request for a date for, I forget what venue, for Jacobs Chavez from Matchroom.
So Chavez's name, it was Jacob Chavez.
Yes.
It wasn't Jacobs versus TBA.
No, it was Jacobs Chavez.
Forget that.
Yeah.
And then scratch
Eddie's point with that is that the contract wasn't signed, so the VADA testing per the contract wasn't implemented. But that's not.
Well, I could just hold it out and sign the contract the day before the fight, and then you never have to take. No.
And also, that's not who VADA was contracted with when they went to test him. They weren't contracted through Matchroom Promotions and the contract for the fight. They're contracted through Nevada.
Yeah.
So that's why Nevada, once you get that request for a date, you are subject to be tested automatically per Nevada law.
Which only makes sense because you've seen small cards. I've seen them in Texas where the fights are signed, the contracts are signed at the weigh-in. Right? Like,
yeah, that's happened before. Yeah, that's not a abnormal thing. Maybe for big fights, obviously it's not, but for the smaller shows, it's quite frequent to see that versus TBA till like Friday or like Thursday, and then they find somebody that wanted to take the fight from a local gym. Darius Copeland saying, "What's up with the white speed sample?" Yeah, Dylan White's gonna get away with that bullshit. Let's be honest.
Back the same as the A sample, okay?
Look, here's the thing. Because UCAD and the British Boxing Board of Control are not under the same jurisdiction as the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 covers or the Muhammad Ali Act, they're not under that jurisdiction. He is allowed to fight, and plus they don't do temporary suspensions. So White is going to be fighting here, just like they allowed Tyson Fury to fight Vladimir Klitschko when he had already popped for the Christian Hammer fight. And they will allow him to fight, and guess what? In about a month or two, we're going to hear, retroactive suspension for Dylan White, 6 months, whatever it is. All those fights still count. It's not like they become no contest. And he just moves on with his career. Like, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be Tyson Fury all over again. And then watch him get rehabilitated and the UK fans act like nothing happened at all. Meanwhile, every time we bring up Marcellus Wilder, you're going to get UK fans in my chat saying, "Oh, he popped dirty."
Which is the weird pornography obsession with Wilder's little brother. Like, it's not real. But it feels real because his last name, because it says Wilder on his trunks. So I'm just going to excite myself on this.
Yeah, it's weird.
Marcellus Wilder didn't start fighting until he was 30. He's not really, the only thing he is Wilder's brother. He's a steroid cheat. Okay, Deontay Wilder's not a steroid cheat. He got knocked out twice. Okay, Deontay Wilder didn't get knocked out twice.
Povetkin is, Dylan White is, and guess what? They're both on the cards. The card with AJ and Ruiz. No one seems to care about that one, huh? That's crazy. Digressing. Last news of the day. Then we're going to go to caller. So Santiago, press 1 if you want to talk. 323-870-4051. Skype, Mix Combat Radio, if you guys want to call in. Last topic of the day, then go to callers if we have any. Announced by way of Michael Benson, Liam Williams will face Alontes Fox in a WBO middleweight title eliminator on the Dubois versus Fujimoto card, December 21st at the Copper Box in London. Winner will be number 1 in the WBO rankings and likely the next mandatory for Demetrius Andrade. Yay. Gary, thoughts on Liam Williams versus Alontes Fox, the winner of that fighting Demetrius Andrade?
I don't want to.
Okay, we can move on.
George Williams, I don't really want to see either of them fight Andrade. That's a awful, boring, no good fight.
And I like Liam Williams. I just don't want to see this fight. I don't even want to see the Alontes Fox fight, to be honest. Like, that fight doesn't sound fun at all.
No, Alontes Fox is not at that level. He's not good.
This is like prime sanctioned body bullshit here. We're two guys who are like maybe top 15 middleweights, maybe, are somehow fighting for a number 1 eliminator status for a belt.
Who do you pick in that fight?
Oh, Williams for sure. I thought Williams beat Liam Smith, to be honest. And
the second one, because he got stopped in the first one, right?
Yes. And I mean, Demetrius Andrade can beat both of them no matter what, so who really cares? Let's be honest. And plus,
it's not competitive and not an entertaining fight.
And plus, like, it's a fight that like none of us are asking for, and that makes it worse, right? Like, Andrade needs to be fighting Triple G, Canelo, Jamal Charlo, Billy Joe Saunders, like literally anyone of note, please. Rob Brandt, Moreta, like anyone of note, please. No. He's going to fight Liam Williams and Alontes Fox. Alontes Fox is a guy that I think is predominantly known for losing to Daniel Jacobs. And Liam Williams is a guy that predominantly is known to losing to Liam Smith at 154. No, this is bad. This is a really bad fight. But Gary, it's going to be it for today, man.
All right.
That's it. Santiago's not press 1. We have no callers, which is okay. I'm hungry. I want some food. And guys, gonna be back tomorrow, most likely. Yes, tomorrow, for the upcoming weekend preview show. So we're gonna preview it early this week. Overall, just to get you guys the content as fast as possible. So expect the Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua 2 breakdown, the full card preview tomorrow at our regular time. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms on social media. And what else? Patreon.com/Mix Combat Radio. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun YouTube bullshit. Listen on podcast form. Drop that 5-star review on iTunes. If you're watching right now on YouTube and you're a YouTube Premium member, you have a free $2 to give us on the Super Chat. Not saying you have to give it to us, but go find your whatever YouTuber you really support and like, and go give that free money that YouTube is giving you to them. I think that's a pretty cool thing that YouTube is doing, just giving you guys free money to give us. Awesome, just this circular thing of money being handed to people. Fantastic, as long as it ends up in my pockets. But digressing, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Gary, final thoughts. Let the people know where to find you.
You should give that money to your favorite YouTuber, and your favorite YouTuber is Matt, so give Matt the money.
It's us.
It's
us. Because Gary, people
don't know how much work Matt does. Like, I don't do much work. Like, I do some, but Matt does all. He does. Matt does all the dirty work here to bring the show to you.
But Gary, people are liking you a lot now, Gary. Like, people are really liking the addition of you on the show. I just want to remind you, like, you're a fan favorite right now. You beat out Foo and Rob like easily. I didn't think that was possible.
And we missed y'all. Foo, if anyone had seen a Foo sighting, if you know his whereabouts, let us know. And Rob, hopefully we have you back on Monday. Best wishes to you. Find me on all forms of social media at 3D Boxing. From Texas to the world, have a good night.
Just want to say, if anyone out there is like really good at tech shit, and you can do that thing where, like the funny meme where you put like people's face above a funny video, right? Like put my face above like a Fight Club video, right? Whatever, and it's the movie, but it's my face on it. Somebody do the famous Bigfoot video where he's walking across the clearing and put Foogati's face on top of Bigfoot. Please, somebody do that for me. That would make my entire life complete. Thank you. But guys, have a great day, great night, great evening, wherever you are. Peace.